Hi, I am Rob Porter. I've worked at Penn State for like 13 years, and while I was there, I was in a committee that you could join these committees. It was for like professional development, and then I joined the committee for accessibility, and it was just a loose group. And then the National Foundation for the Blind ended up suing Penn State, and members of the Penn State community had sued Penn State for not having accessible websites and such. Um, so Penn State got in front of this and they started an office, accessibility office, and they shared the same office space as us. And there was a bunch of blind people, deaf people, and it was led by one of my former bosses. I became good friends with many of the blind people and the people in the office, and and then I got hired by the FBI, by the company that does the FBI website. One of the reasons was for accessibility. And I worked there for about 4.5 years. And then I landed a good job here at 6 Feet Up with the good people. When I was at the FBI within this year, a website called webami.org cares about accessibility. And they did a test called the Web AIM Million. They did the top 100 million websites by traffic. And the FBI was in the top 5% with one error detected. And I'm pretty proud of that. So why would you want to? Well, lawsuits. Penn State got sued, Berkeley got sued, Miami got sued. Penn State and Berkeley got ahead of it and proactive, and Miami paid the students tuition and book cost and college loans, but didn't remedy the situation. Target and Winn-Dixie, their stores, and they ended up losing accessibility lawsuits against them, but they have also embraced it as well. Excuse me. Netflix and Amazon got sued by the deaf community for not having closed caption. And while Netflix did with their DVDs, of course, uh, they didn't with the live streaming. And this, despite the argument that the ADA applied only to physical places, the judge ruled that the law also covered website-only business and allowed the case to proceed. So now all the videos that you can watch in there have closed captioning, and all in-house videos that produced by Netflix or Amazon have what's called audio descriptions, which are really cool. You can listen to, in the dead spots of the dialogue, they insert descriptions of what's going on, and it's almost like an audio book. And when my friend comes over to watch movies, that's how we watch it. And then we get to Playboy and Domino's. Playboy, some people don't necessarily read Playboy just for the magazine articles. They didn't have any alt tags for the images, and they're getting sued for that. And Domino's, they got sued for not having an accessible website. And they're fighting it all the way to the Supreme Court. And all because it would take about 38,000 to make it accessible, which I think is pretty bad. So I want to talk to you a little bit about my friends. On the top left is my friend Luis. He's a car nut. He worked at the office there. And my car was having problems, and he was like, I got the tool for that. And he came over and we worked on cars together. And he would just feel around, know what parts were what. He thinks if he wasn't blind, he would be a mechanic. And that's his Mustang. He didn't become completely blind until he was in his 20s. And then he still had a flip phone that had a cracked screen, but he knew where the buttons were. And he wasn't going to let go of that for anything, and it finally died. So now he has an iPhone. He's one of my best friends. He doesn't use Braille or have a guide dog. The person to his right is Michelle. She's completely blind from birth. She does use Braille. She uses Windows with JAWS and the iPhone, and so does Luis. He uses JAWS as well. It's kind of the gold standard for blind people. The picture to the right of that is Luis and his wife, Grace. Now, Grace can see well enough to drive in the daylight, but she can't read anything unless it's right up by her eyes. She has to zoom so far in. She has equipment in her apartment where it's a big giant magnification glass right in front of the screen, and I felt bad for her, and this is one of the reasons I feel passionate. The guy on the bottom left, his name is Rick, and the guy with the wedding tux, he was my quarterback. I was a center. He was a quarterback, and he was very, very athletic. He did bodybuilding and competed, and then he ended up getting MS. And now his mobility is very much diminished, and he has to use a keyboard only to get information from websites and stuff like that. And for our picture on the right is my friend Rita. She is colorblind, and so she can't read certain uh, texts that are not contrast enough from back to the front, the background of the text. And then there's you and me. As we get older, we might need bifocals. We might lose some motor skills. So this might include yourself. So the standard is called WCAG, and it's Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. It's section 508 from the web. There's 3 levels of it: A, AA, AAA. And as you go up, it gets harder, and AAA is really almost impossible. And the new one that started June last year is WCAG 2.1, which is the same thing as 2.0 AA, except there's 17 more additions. It is not widely adopted yet. There's this checklist by Paul J. Addons, who I kind of have a man crush on. He is very good about accessibility, and he has this checklist here, and it'll be in my notes. And you can click on any one of these and see what the bylaw is for W3C, which governs the web. And you can just check off things as you go along. All right. So here's some of the major issues. Headings are less important to you and me if we're visual, because you can make anything look like a heading that's not a heading with CSS. And when we scan, we can just tell the important parts. While a blind person has to use headings, and they mean something. H1 means something, H2 means something under H1, and so on. And with HTML5, you can use multiple H1s inside of article, section, nav, or aside. And so the IndyPy is the main H1, but H1A would be Py Web Conf, H1B would be Py Data Conf, and then H2 would be underneath it. It really works well for the screen readers. So let me show you what that would mean. So I have a couple testers that I'll show you eventually, but here is a heading structure that you can see. And as you can see, there's multiple H1s and then H2s, and they logically make sense with the H3s underneath them. But you can have other sites that the headings are like all over the place, and the blind person cannot make heads or tails of what is going on. So you need to think of it as an outline. Keyboard navigation. So my friend Rick, the quarterback, he has problems with his hands, so he can't, do a mouse. He only uses keyboards. And so let's see here. If I go to USA Today, let's say, and I start tabbing, you can hear me tabbing probably, but you can't see what I'm doing. But if I go to the DK site and I may close that and I start tabbing, you can visually see where I'm at. And as a person with motor skill issues, this is pretty important because where are you, you know? And your website should work like this for everything that you're doing. And if you come to a drop-down list, say, I know these links right here are drop-downs, you should be able to use the down arrow or the return button to get down into the navigational items and then go around, all without a mouse. It's pretty important. This is one of the first tests you should do. No questions asked. All right. Next is modal dialogues. And modal dialogues are really something popular today in the web. And uh, they're fine. But when you don't do it right and the modal dialogue pops up, well, underneath it, the keyboard thing, navigation is still underneath it. It's not in the window. So you got to make sure that the focus goes inside the dialog box and focuses on the first element. This usually fails, but you want to make sure it does that way. Then you can cycle through all the elements, and the focus should be trapped inside that dialog until they're finished. And then you close the dialog using the close button or the escape key. Escape key is the best practice and standard convention to close dialogs. When it's closed, the form must be sent back to where it came from. Many times the focus goes back to the top of the page and the user gets lost. And every button in the dialog must have a good accessible name. X is not a good accessible name for the close button. Use ARIA label close. Mega menus, they're very popular because you want to make a website that doesn't have 10 million navigational items until you reveal it. It should be be able to be navigated by keyboard only, like I just did with the DK site. Make sure they can get around the top nav, then only open with the down arrow, space bar or enter keys. Otherwise, the user will get stuck on 100 items. If the menu appears on hover, then it should also appear on focus. The menu expands on click, then it should also expand on key press. Forms are a pretty big deal. So anytime you put an input box in, you have to have a label. You need to have the label. It has a 4 that matches that ID, and that's how the screen reader knows how to describe that input box. Otherwise, if you just have a placeholder, as soon as the screen reader goes into that form value, it disappears. And not only that, if you start typing something into that and then you come back to it later, you don't remember what it was for because the description's not there. And this is one of the reasons that by law, the law of with the web, you can only have one ID. So you can also have help text. So what you would have is your input, and then you do audio described by, and that matches the ID of the span or div that you're, or paragraph tag that you're using to describe this form in more detail. So when you handle errors, you want to make sure that when you submit the button, that the error is spoken automatically, and the screen reader should not go silent on a bad submit because the user doesn't know what's going on. And the focus should be sent to the list of error messages or the first invalid input type. And then, you know, we live in a modern world with HTML5 input types. And these things are wonderful because they handle validation for you. Number, make sure it's a number. Password, make sure it has stars. And the nice thing on like mobile, let's say, if you go to input type number, the mobile keyboard that shows is a number keyboard. You know, the date one is the date picker. And so it's very nice and useful and more semantic. So disabling Pinchtozoom is because people want picture perfect websites and they don't want you to be able to zoom it or not. So they would put maximum scale 1 or user scalable equals no. And that's the wrong way to think about it, because my friend Grace, Luis's wife, she has to really zoom into her phone to see uh, what she's looking at. And if you leave her out, then that's not really cool. It turns out in iOS 10, Apple ignores these two. So it doesn't matter unless you're on Android or another phone. Audio and video captioning. So captioning is for the deaf, and it's synchronized to as the speaker is speaking, and it's exactly what they're saying. And you see these if you go to a restaurant and they have a TV on silent, you can see the captions. And YouTube, if you put a video up on YouTube as a company, YouTube will automatically caption them for you. And other alternatives are transcripts, which are pretty much the speech that whoever was going to make in just a document. And then audio descriptions, of course, like we talked about with Netflix or Amazon, where they fill in the blank spots of where no dialogue is with describing what's going on in the scene. So when you get to the accordions, we all doing this so we can hide it and show it. The blind person needs to know what's going on. And so you need to have a aria tell the reader that things are expanded or closed. And you need to offer keyboard only users the same thing. And it would look like this: aria expanded equals true, or aria expanded equals false. And one of the last things is color. And never rely on colors for meaning. A red light or a green light at a stoplight doesn't necessarily mean something to someone who has colorblindness issues. So you need another thing, like, stoplight actually has orders of which one is which. And these color combinations are pretty bad. And I want to show you to give you some idea what's going on. This app is called Simdaltonism, and it changes so you can see the 12 and the 8 maybe. If you hover over this with this, you can see how it changes to different color blindness and what the audience may see with your color choices. And as you can tell, it's pretty hard to read some of these numbers that are there. Hopefully that translates well for you. So, you don't want to do accessibility halfway. There, I fixed it, I put it on there, and somebody might have a little more fun than they bargained for. So here's some of the built-in tools that come out of the box with your devices, pretty much.
VoiceOver on. Accessibility shortcuts. Heading. App switcher. Spotify. Travel dock. Browsers folder. 8 apps. Double tap. Browsers folder. 8 apps. Opening browsers folder. Browsers. Heading. Safari. Double tap to open. Selected. Back. Button. Back. Web page loaded. Address. w3.org. Secure and validated connection. Reload. Button. Skip to accessible W3C logo. Web accessibility init. Accessible home page. Hyphen. Heading left. Before and after. Improving a website. Overview. Link. Citylights concert. Form controls. 5 form links. 31 links. Headings. 2 headings. Citylights survey. Heading level 2. Heading not found. Citylights is the new portal for visitors and residents. Find out what's on, book tickets, and get the latest news. Welcome to Citylights. Heading level 1. Heatwave link to temperatures. Heading level 2. Link. Man gets 9 months in violin case. Heading level 2. Link. Links. 40 links. Heatwave. Full store. Heatwave link to survey. Survey. Tickets. News. Skip to net.
So as you can tell, when I changed what they call the rotor, you just spin your finger, and it can change it from like headings to links to forms, get right into the form values. It's pretty easy to get started. You just, tell your phone, tell Siri to go ahead and start up VoiceOver, or use your Mac. There's a VoiceOver you can start up. Same with the iPad. Unfortunately, Windows and Linux don't ship with any default tools, but you could add some. Now we're going to talk to you about browser add-ons. Chrome has a good built-in audit. And so if I would go to Chrome and I would do an inspect, I can go to the audits and then I can run the audit. I could Okay, so the microphone went away. So here I'm back. Firefox, if you saw what I was doing, they don't have, the built-in tools are not that great. Axe is pretty good. There's a contrast checker that you can add on, and it will look for different color issues, and it will show you where the issues might be. You can see the red stuff, and you can see AA or AAA, and small letters or big letters. If it passes, so here it passed with a big letter, but not with if it was a smaller letter. So these are not my favorite tools. The Axe one and the Chrome built-in audit one is good for setting reports and stuff. But for me, bookmarklets are the thing. There's this headings map, and this will all be in my my notes. This heading map is right here, and this will show you what the heading orders are. As you can see, this goes from heading level 1 to heading level 4 to heading level 6, which doesn't make sense in a heading context. So bookmarklets, this is my favorite part. Because the first one is the, I would say if you use just one, it's this code sniffer thing. And you can get code sniffer. You can just find it here. And you just drag this into you just drag it up to your bookmark bar. And then once you're in the bookmark bar, you can click on it and it will do a test for you. And it's usually pretty close. You can set single A, double A, or triple A. And the warnings you could almost ignore. But it will tell you where the problem is, and it will point it out in the actual page. Hopefully there's one here. There you go. You can see where's that? A lot of stuff's hidden. Let me go to another page. So you can see it has 147 errors. And as you can see, it will bounce. I'm not sure why they're hovering thing. Let me try to reactivate this again. Oh, come on. All right. Let's do it here. All right, because there was a z-index issue. This is the before W3C and the other one was after. So here you can see it has 41 errors. And when you click on this, you can see where the errors are. They will have this bouncing yellow thing to show you exactly where it's at. And will show you why. And you can click on this and see what the rule is on that particular problem and what to do to fix it. And it will even make suggestions if it's colors, something that's very similar to what you're doing. So this is probably my first go-to thing is this HTML code sniffer. I highly recommend it. It gets you going first. What you don't really want to start with the screen readers, in my opinion. That's my last test is the screen readers. And then there's this H1 where you can click on this and get the headings. As you can see, this is the before, and then this would be the after. Let me refresh this. And this would be the after, and you can see that they make a better sense for heading orders. All right, so some of these bookmarklets are really, really good. They're from the guy I have a man crush on. Let me show you. His name is Paul Addons, and here they are. And this will give you a demo page and install link, and you just drag this up to your bar, and then it will put it up there, and then you can check all the forms, let's say. So if I come to the before and I refresh this page, because you have to refresh it to get rid of the JavaScript, I can look for form things, and look, there's no ID for this input. And I can also look and see if there is any, let's say, images that don't have alt tags. So then you can see what they are, and look, they're missing. So the blind person has no idea what's going on in these images. And so color contrast analyzer is the color contrast analyzer in sim daltonism is really good for maybe the designer of your group, and also color oracle. And what that is it will have the WCAG 2.0 standards. So this is what's behind. So if I even look at the slide, and then this would be what the text is, and I can tell that it fails here. On large text, it passes for AA, totally fails on AAA. And if it was not text, then it's okay. And the sim daltonism is what I used to show the color blindness thing. So it's just like you're putting on player glasses, so you can see like that person, and you can see the color blindness, how that affects what a person sees on your webpage. So automated testing, Axe Core, Axe is great. You can, run it in the browser. You can run it on your server, get reports, and you can run it on iOS, Android. It's great, and they're doing a good job there. Screen readers. So this is what the real blind people, what they use, and even Grace, who can't see that close, she just lets the screen reader read out what's going on. So, but you need to use the right browsers with it. So JAWS is made for Internet Explorer, and the problem with you and me is it costs $1,000 for you to buy it. There is a benefit if you download it, you can use it in free mode for 45 minutes. You have to restart your computer, but you can use it for free. NVDA is a free and open source screen reader. Not as many blind people use it. It's written in Python, so you can help add to it. VoiceOver is on all the Mac stuff, and it prefers to be with Safari, and Firefox, and TalkBack for Android. Let me see how much time I have. At this point, if anybody has any questions, I can answer some questions. If not, I can try to do a live demo with JAWS. I have to spin up Windows. Let me do that while I wait and see if there's any questions. Since I have a Mac, I have to run Windows in VirtualBox. And you can too. Windows allows you to download a free copy of this to use for a limited amount of time. And you can, once you get it set up right, you can just set that as a snapshot, and then you can come back to that and you never have to download it again. Unfortunately, I will not be able to hear what Jaws is saying, but I will attempt. Windows isn't letting me log in.
JAWS 40-minute mode. Recycle. Taskbar. Desktop. Folder view. List view. Not selected. JAWS 2019. 4 of Internet Explorer. Address and search using Bing Edit. http://www.msn.
So
MSN
I might need
vertical
someone
bar
in the room to
Outlook
let me know if
Office.
this is running.
Desktop. Folder view. List view. JAWS 2019. 4 of 6. To move to items, use the arrow keys. To edit the select MSN vertical bar Outlook. Map. Skip the content. Skip
All
the
right, so it looks like it
sign
might
in
be
link.
running. And so you can see there's different
Page
modes
setting.
and
Use Robert Herjavec : left quote, this is a brand new way to make money, quote, angels and entrepreneurs heading visited. MSN address and search using enter MSN vertical bar Outlook Office Skype Bing breaking news and latest videos. Robert Herjavec : left quote, this is a brand Robert Herjavec : left quote, this is a RA quote, search edit. There are no links. Subscribe. Video playback not supported. Page as one.
there's also
Edit. Our favorite
NVDA.
back to desktop
And
folder view list view
I am
NVDA
ready for any
506.
questions
To move
because
the
I
items,
can't
use
tell.
the
I'm
arrow
sorry.
keys. To edit the selected item, press F2.
And there's different modes, there's different key combinations where you can get into just listening to the headers, the links, the footer. Just go ahead and in full read the page mode. And that way you could have some idea what a blind person or a person that's
CNN
impaired with
breaking
vision,
news,
like
latest
Grace,
news and videos Internet
can
Explorer.
do.
Our favorite back to school picks for 2019.
Yeah,
Dell
what
on
couple other
CNET
things, you know,
link. Frame 9.
my
Lending
friend
3
Luis
updated.
is a very technical car guy, and he's very technical in a way that he's aware that privacy is an issue, and here this thing is reading it out loud. And so what he did was he learned to speed up JAWS and voiceover to the highest speeds, and it just sounds like blah, 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 but he can understand it. And it's kind of like us, we just scan through a web page, right? Because time is of the essence. If you're going to spend 20 minutes looking at that web page, trying to get through all the navigation, trying to get through all the words, you don't want to spend too much time. All right, well, thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to get a hold of me. I am very passionate about this subject because I have friends that are close to me that live with this condition, and they need our help. So we need you as programmers to start this, and it's better to start when you first start a project than it is later on and try to shoehorn it in. It's pretty easy actually if you think about it from the get-go. Thank you for your time.